Bethany. Welcome everyone to our March Product Account event by the Seattle chapter. Here's our agenda for today. I will do a very quick intro and I'll introduce our speaker today, and then I'll pass it on to Gayathri, the speaker, and then we'll open the floor to Q&A, so we'll get a chance to communicate live with our speaker. If you're joining us live, please post hello in chat, let us know where you're calling us from, and then please use the chat option or the Q&A option in the Zoom controls for a Q&A after Gayathri's presentation. If this is your first time joining us at Products That Count, we are a large international community of 300,000 plus product managers around the world with multiple chapters that host regular events like this one, where we invite different speakers who come and share their product knowledge and product learnings. We also have a podcast and a series of blogs that are posted on Products That Count. And as Bethany mentioned, we also just hosted our annual product awards. So all of this content you will be able to find on our website, productsthatcount.com, and also on our social media. And I'm really excited to introduce our speaker tonight, Gayathri, who's the Senior Director of Product Management at Docusign. Today, Gayathri will talk about the lessons and mistakes and successes of a product career, and also share some of her knowledge around how to provide business impact as part of your product career. Before Docusign, Gayathri worked for a long time in Microsoft, so she brings a wealth of knowledge from UX to backend systems. And I'm really excited to hear what Gayathri will share with us tonight. I will stop sharing and pass it on to our speaker. Thank you so much. Off to you, Gayathri.
Bethany and Irina. It's a pleasure to be with you all this evening. I also go by G3, and that's why you can see, me titled as G3. So I'm currently a Senior Director of Product Management at Docusign, as Irina pointed out. Before I dive deeper, let me share my deck. Okay, are you able to see the deck? Okay, great. All right. So I wanted to share my background. So when I talk about like the subsequent slides around mistakes and successes, you will see where they are all coming from, right? I did my undergrad and grad in computer science and engineering. I started out as an engineer in Microsoft in SQL Server organization, and then I moved into product management in Bing, and then into Office 365. Most of the technology that I've worked on are in search, but I have done like, a bunch of, across the stack. I worked in startup, which is, V1 projects within Microsoft. I have dealt with like, V2 products, like at multiple scale. And I have worked in commercial products and also in enterprise products within Microsoft. And I have been an IC, and I have been a manager, and I've been a manager for like, almost 12 years now. And as I said earlier, I have actually worked across the stack, UI all the way to the back end. That's something that I'm very proud of. And I have worked in box product, like SQL Server. When it started, it was box product, and then moved into online. And then like in, of course, Bing and like Office 365, they are all like, online systems. So that's, a little bit about my work experience and, my background. On the personal front, I live in Seattle with my husband and 2 girls. And just like, many of you guys, I do go through a lot of struggles, as a working parent. So with that, I'm going to set the agenda on what I'm going to be covering. I am actually looking at a target audience, like an IC product manager. And I'm going to share, successes and failures that I have actually experienced in my career journey. And I will also share, a framework that I have actually used, which is quite applicable for, me as an IC in a product management role, or me as a manager managing people, because I have a bunch of product managers and also managers in my organization. And I actually help use that framework to guide many of my conversations with my leaders and also ICs that are quite seniors. And then I'll leave plenty of time for question and Q&A session as well. With that, I'm going to start talking about different parts of the product cycle. The first thing is definitely, many of our favorites, the customer voice, right? What do we want to, know about this? Being in, whether you're a front-end area or a mid-tier area or a back-end area, it does not matter. You need that customer voice or data that comes into your day-to-day job. If you do not have customers, just go seek customers. Like, I told you I worked in, commercial products and also enterprise products. Even in Bing, like we had a concept of Bing fans, where these users are like very active users of Bing. We found all of these people, we opened up that program, and we would go and meet with them to understand what is it that they love about Bing, what is it that, they want us to improve on. And we would also share some of the, up and coming features that they could actually start being our evangelists. So, I'm saying it's very important to be connecting with your customers on understanding what and how they feel about our products. And, time with customers are super critical, very precious. I would strongly suggest go prepare a list of questions that you want to get clarity on. And those questions should be framed in such a way, either you unblock yourself by driving that clarity, or you want to learn more about their systems that gives you additional insights on what they are actually building, right? Be a super active listener in all of these customer meetings and start empathizing with their problem. Like often customers would come back and say, for example, hey, I want these couple of attributes as part of my search results. And I'm like, okay, you know what, that's great. So let's just, step back and understand why are these two attributes alone very interesting. And when you start, talking big picture about the problem they are solving, trying to understand, how they have architected their system, you will start understanding and realizing, oh, this is important for them because it improves their productivity, right? And when you start having these conversations with multiple customers, you will start drawing a pattern out of it that, hey, you know what, this is basically a search configuration extensibility / flexibility that we wanted to offer these users so they can go and configure their own mechanisms to get what they want in their search results. And that actually is super helpful for them, right? And I would strongly recommend that you start playing it back to drive that clarity. Double check your assumptions. And if you run out of time, just send meeting notes around how you have synthesized all the complex conversations, and sending that simplified meeting notes. And I would strongly suggest do that thing, because it will be so awkward to have misunderstood what they told you and go back at a later time to say, oh, you know what, I built something and this is what you guys asked for. And they might come back and say, no, this is not what I asked for. So use that first meeting or the first two meetings to synthesize all that information, comprehend it, and get clarity that this is indeed their problem. And then you go back to them at a later point. And when you think about all of these things, do not focus on technology at all. We are so surrounded by engineers, awesome engineers often, and they get super excited about solving the problem. Like you got to control that excitement and keep going back to why and the what, and make sure that all the conversations revolves around that. And once you get clarity, you can, even ask that customer whether they want to be your early adopter, and sign them up, and you will be very surprised that most of them would want to be a big part of your solution. So they would be very happy for participating in your program, right? So the next part, I picked another interesting topic around metrics driven engineering. This is probably a very, very challenging part for new product managers on what is the metric that I should be developing and how should I be developing and all of that stuff, right? My simple thing or motto is, when it comes to metrics, don't overcomplicate. Keep it simple, repeatable, cost effective. So what I mean by that is, I will share it through a success and a failure, and you will get to understand what I mean by that. So when I moved into product management role in Bing, we were so excited about creating, this culture of metrics-driven engineering. We had base metrics, we had competitive metrics, we had customer satisfaction metric. So we had amazing set of metrics, and it was a positive, I would say, flywheel of seeing that improvement in that metric, and all of us would get super excited about making a next big dent in that metric. And we were seeing that improvements over and over. I took that learning in my subsequent job, and I said, okay, let's actually create a metric for that. But the mistake that I did this time was, after a point, I myself did not have clarity on what that metric was supposed to do. Along the way, it got so complicated that I was not able to articulate the reason behind that metric myself. And, I realized it was not something repeatable as well, and it was very costly to, build that metric. So essence of all of these things is, keep the metric very simple. Do not overload it. The intent should be very simple and straightforward, and keep it that way, because you got to be able to extrapolate, the outcome of this thing. And the faster you are able to produce these metrics on your engineering cycle, it will actually help you validate that you're on the right track or not. So that's one important aspects. And then, the another aspect of metric is around A/B. That's a very important thing as well. A/B and instrumentation, again in Bing, there pretty much all the features are A/B tested, and we talk about these metrics at great detail in ship rooms before we make the decision. And we actually started on the journey of user metrics, engagement metrics / funnel metrics, all of those things ahead of time. And that actually helped us ground the decision-making process. And I said, start it early, because some of these metrics are pretty complex. You may need to iterate on it, and you may also need to understand the error margin. Sometimes there will be a lot of noise in the scorecard. You need to understand all of these things, what is good versus bad, and get started on those journey early on, because it will come in super handy as your product actually matures. Right. Again, for internal products, I would suggest the same thing. Keep those metrics very simple, and you can run surveys, because these are all internal developer, whether your audience is actually a developer community or consumer community or internal developer community. There is some metric that you can develop to assess what they are looking for and how well you're doing. So surveys are a great way to get that information when it comes to internal developers, right? And I would say apply the same framework. Keep the metrics super simple, repeatable, and cost effective. And in some cases, if it's if the team is excited about it, use that opportunity to collaborate and bring the best minds together to make your metrics more meaningful. And it will come in super handy. And again, it will actually help us all get excited about it when we make progress. And when things are not moving, you will also know that, okay, things are not going well. Let's change action and let's apply something else for the next quarter, right? So this is a very important aspect. And then third is another interesting phase in product development, which is the engineering phase. Often it is very tempting to go deeper and participate in detailed design discussions and stuff like that. My recommendation for product managers is to listen, keenly listen, learn what the engineering team is thinking about, and let the engineering team make the decision. You need to raise your hand only when you see this is absolutely gone. Like, the why and the what that we are actually building is lost in the conversation because the engineering team went in different direction, right? So you need to bring them back into the right goals of the project. It's also important to learn the overall direction of the conversations that are actually happening, because you are the one who is defining the MVP. Okay, if something is going wrong, you need to realize that and make a quick transition to, do I need to modify my MVP? Like, if you are running into bugs and other things, it's not a big deal. But if you're running into design issues, that's going to jeopardize your timelines. And more importantly, if you're running into architectural issues, that's yet another problem. But if you're running into, again, if you run into execution issues, that's also a problem. You can actually figure out whether the problem is with, the engineering manager who is not able to pull things together, or are there low performers. Regardless of the source of the problem, understanding, how well you're executing against the sprint, and if you need to modify the MVP, is a very important aspect that you need to keep a pulse check on. Right? That helps you like set the right expectation with your customers, because they might be expecting something from you like this month, and all of these different issues might completely derail your timelines, and you may have to go back to them after 2 or 3 months. So it's better to keep them updated on, like, hey, there are some hiccups happening in the team. This is what is going on, and we will get back in 2 months or 3 months, right? And then, one thing that I would say is, if you realize that the engineering leader is actually spread too thin and is not able to pull the weight, it's okay to step in and help out. I myself have done that thing in the past, but do it deliberately. Don't try to overcompensate, because as a product manager, you got to be thinking 2 steps ahead. And if you do not pull your weight, nobody in the team is going to pull your weight. So net, the team will suffer, right? So it's okay to, fill in for your engineering manager for some period of time and keep it time boxed, and make sure that you're actually working with your leadership to ensure that the right person is being hired, or the engineering manager who is spread thin is actually getting air cover from somewhere else, so that person can come back to this project again, right? Very important part. Again, the key message is, you can actually help out at that time, but don't overcompensate. Come back to your role and do your job. And another aspects of engineering thing is, I would say, always stay energetic and positive. I can't emphasize this thing enough, because you are a leader, a product leader. You are, facing the customer. You can actually bring all that excitement back into the engineering team. And engineers, a lot of the times look up to you as a leader, and you want to make sure that the morale is high and team is so excited about developing that product for, our customers, right? So those are the things that I would say, because all of these things are summary of what I have actually learned in my job. There were occasions when the engineering morale has been pretty low, and, you have to partner with your engineering leader and pep up the entire team, have an offsite, talk about what is all the issue that is going on in your team, make a list of a prioritized list, go tackle one by one while you're actually developing the software. So you can play a very important role, not just as a product leader, but also as a person that can influence your engineering team in a very positive way. And the side effect of that is, you will have amazing engineers that really enjoy working with you. And when you go to a different team, they will actually follow you as well. And you will actually have a great, relationship over a period of time. It's fantastic when you start doing all of these things. The last thing that I wanted to talk about is around the beta stage, or the GA, the general availability or shipping stage. What is the kind of engagement that you should be doing? As a product leader, beat the drum. Like, again, if you do not do it, nobody will. So beat the drum. Now, you can actually work with your marketing team if it's an external facing product. Make sure you put a nice story together on what are the essence that you wanted to go talk about with your customers. If it is internal, then go work with your leadership and get on the agenda for the all hands meeting, or set up a brown bag. So you go and talk to the customers, which is in this case an internal customer, about all the things that you developed, right? And whether it is conferences or brown bags, do not miss that opportunity. It's a very important phase. And my recommendation is always co-present with your customers. When you go and talk about what you have developed without your customers on stage with you, the impact is not that great. The moment you have your customers with you on stage, the impact is so high. And again, it could be internal or external, doesn't matter. Do it always with them, because at this time, it's not about you or what your team has developed. It's more about, did you solve the customer's problem? Are they seeing the impact? Are they happy? And when they come and like present how your solution helped their business, it will be so impactful, right? So I would recommend always co-present, and it's a great way to put a nice bow at the end of the journey, right? So in all of these things, that examples that I actually provided, you might have inferred few themes that I talked about. This is the framework that I use, whether I am doing an IC job or I am a people manager. Like driving for clarity, curiosity to learn, staying energetic and passionate. All three of them, I actually look at it as equal components. Now, always as a product leader, you sometimes start worrying about, like, did I listen to the customers correctly? Am I building the right product? I'm spending so much of money and energy from the company and like resources. Am I building the right set of features? Did I prioritize it correctly? Like, you should actually get clarity on all of these things throughout the stages by applying these frameworks in some extent, right? Also, I can confidently say I apply the same thing as a manager, or when I'm talking with my product managers, I apply the same framework as well. And often you will be pretty surprised to see how the answers just fall in place when you start asking these questions yourself. My employees might come and ask me like, hey, when am I going to get promoted? What are the things that I need to do to prove that I'm in the next level? Or I might actually use the same framework to say that, hey, you wanted more additional, more responsibilities. These are the things that you could do to, get that additional responsibility. So you will naturally see all of these things actually fit into the matrix. And I can confidently say that when I take proactive measures, looking at all of these different aspects, I have been more successful in that role. So that's, an essence that I wanted to definitely bring into this conversation. So, the drive for clarity and results is pretty straightforward. Let me give with some examples as well. Always start with the target goal and set your eyes on it and start moving towards that, right? There are several things that will go bad, that you may have to pull back and you may have to take a detour, but you should always ask the question, am I making forward progress? So for example, I can tell you in my Office 365 experience, one of the jobs that I had actually taken was in the backend area around data centers management. This was the time period when Office went from box product to an online Office 365 product. And we had a huge data center team. And I was managing this backend component that was in charge of running pretty much all the activities in the data center. And the problem was the system was not scaling. And we had to, there were so many hardware that were landed. And in order to keep the business moving forward, we had to provision all of these things. We had to deploy the software. And it was such a stressful time period because all these hardware were sitting idle. We were actually losing depreciation cost on all of these things, right? So you know, every day I would actually come to work and say, okay, what is the forward progress am I going to make? What did I learn today? And what am I going to learn today? What is the problem I'm going to solve? And, you know, luckily, like I was also surrounded by amazing engineers that we would actually just roll up our sleeves and start digging into the details and create a plan for how we are going to tackle that, you know, situation. And I can also confidently say that, you know, you as a product manager often will be in such a spot where even though you're leading a product, sometimes you have to roll up your sleeves and like start digging into the details. And as I said, like, you know, keep all of these things in a time boxed fashion so that, you know, it becomes useful for you and for the organization. But this was a great experience for me. It gave me the confidence that I can actually just go back into my engineering thing, or pull up my sleeves whenever I need to, if I'm pushed into that situation to go deliver something for our business or for our customers, right? So this is a you know, a good quote that I actually saw, and it has definitely been a very nice one, because attitude that you work with drives the action, and action drives the results, and results often drive the lifestyle. And it's so impactful when you start thinking about it. It's really true, and you'll get a feel for it. I'll let you guys all, like, you know, wallow in on it offline. The next one is around curiosity to learn, right? You know, this is such an important aspect of your growth. When you get that opportunity that allows you to learn and stretch yourself, growth automatically happens. When the time comes when you're not learning anything, you have to stop and start thinking, hey, what am I doing in this job? Am I learning something? Is this the right job for me? Should I be doing something else? And, you know, all of those things you need to ask those questions once in a while if you're not learning, you know, anything for some period of time. Now, again, I apply the same framework when I talk with my employees, and even for assessing my own you know, work in any job. So I would strongly recommend, like, you know, you asking these questions. You should be asking why and why not all the time in your day-to-day job. So one thing that I can tell is, like, when I went into the Bing organization, from being an engineer into a product management, like my learning curve was like exponential. Like I was learning so much every single day, and I could easily see how I was stretching myself, how I was proactively tackling problems, and how I was growing myself, right? And I have also been in teams where I was not learning, and you know, it was a very clear indication that I need to go find something else. And it's okay. It's okay to recognize that you made a mistake, that you know, you did not make the right choice in, you know, being in the team or whatever that is, right? My motto is, like, it's okay to fail, but always get some learning out of it. Like, what was the mindset that I had when I took on the job, and what was I hoping to learn? And if I'm not learning, what got dropped in the middle? What did I do? So ask all of those questions, so that you can put them all in your you know, in your notepad or whatever that is that you're maintaining, to get clarity. And this is a nice quote, and I just don't know who quoted it, but you know, there is also a saying, where there is will, there is a way. So if you are determined to learn, you will figure out how to incorporate all that learning during your daytime. Like you might start doing all of these things while you're folding clothes, while you're walking your dog, or walking by yourself. So you can figure out how to do all of those things, but always allocate time for learning on the job, learning off the job, learning about the job, learning about your competitors, learning about your market. Always spend time. Like there is no, I mean, if you don't do that thing, again, it will pull you down at some point. So apply all of these things early on. And then this is another interesting thing. Do what you love and love what you do. At the end of it, life is too short. Make every single day counts. Like do what matters to you. If it does not matter to you, don't waste your time on it. And you know, every single day is a struggle. If you are a working parent, or if you're caring for aged people, senior people, if you're caring for sick pet, or whatever it is, every single day is actually going to be hard in some way or the other. Even if you're just in work, and if you get to an expanded scope, things will get uncomfortable, things will get hard, things may get hard in multiple fronts. So the passion is the only thing that's going to keep your momentum going. You got to have that fire in you. When you are realizing that it is lost, find out what is a new thing. Because often, identifying passion is not easy. It is hard. Sometimes it might change, and you may be interested in multiple areas as well. Like, for example, when I was in my very first job in SQL Server, I did apply all the framework and I was actually growing, but soon I actually realized that coding and debugging was not getting me excited. And I had to do something else. I was getting more excited about what customers are asking for, because these enterprise customers, they say, oh my God, this is so complex. That complexity is the one that started attracting me to what the customers are asking for. How do I simplify that into a product definition, and how do I drive all of those things inside? So that passion changed. So I had to go back and figure out a product management role, and I was able to find within Microsoft to pursue that. Right. And I am also a person who is interested in multiple areas. I have a very strong extracurricular activity. But at some point, you need to figure out what is the thing that you wanted to really pursue. What is the thing you wanted to keep it as a hobby? At one point, my hobby was taking a lot of my time as well. And I had to, make a decision to pull it back, because if you want to accelerate on your passion or one area, you have to balance time. And, I'm not saying people should always, pull one thing back. If you're able to balance successfully, go for it. But make sure you're able to do all of these things thoroughly and to your satisfaction, to push on one thing, right? So that's that's my essence of the thing. And I did talk about this product, being a product leader, engineering team is drawing a lot of energy. I mentioned in one of the previous slides, it is very true. So if you are not passionate, your engineering team will actually see that thing, your customers will see that thing. So always keep that energy, the positivity, that passion, and all of those things inside you, because you are the leader. You have to internalize that you are the CEO of the feature, you are the CEO of the product. And to motivate everybody around you, you've got to keep your passion really high, right? And then, this is a great quote by Oprah Winfrey. I really like her from multiple angles. And it is so true that, you've got to follow your passion, because when you start following your passion, you will start finding your purpose in life. And that is so true. And, again, if you are not sure of what your passion is, just go do a little bit of searching within yourself, and you will find it, right? All right. So with that, I'm going to open up for questions.
Thank you so much, Gayathri, for your presentation. I really enjoyed how you connected both the business tips for impact along with the personal tips and personal advice for how to become a better product leader and a better leader for your team, better product manager. So I found it really inspiring, and I hope our audience did too. And we'll turn to questions. Please post quick questions in the chat, or you can use the Q&A tab in Zoom. We already have a couple of questions come in from Ian, so we'll just start with those. First question, would love to hear your thoughts on getting clarity around the lovable behind the why. What must be true for solving this problem would make the solution lovable?
Yeah, so the thing is, if you have clarity on the why, again, talking with customers about the true intent, and if you are able to identify what is holding them back. For example, understanding, as I said, if they are asking for certain features versus understanding the true pain point of the customer, if you get to that level, and if you are able to solution a product that is fundamentally changing and making an impact in their business, then it becomes lovable, right? So often, like, you can think about usage versus, a true engagement of the product itself. When you produce a product that's under business impact as well, right? When you produce a product that is creating a huge business impact for your customers, it does become like lovable. Just imagine some of the products out there, like, Microsoft actually has a bunch of products. There is OneNote. I really like OneNote because fundamentally it changes, how you use that thing at work and also outside work. Think about Salesforce. Salesforce is a phenomenal product, right? Like, without that product, how is many businesses going to run? But if you take an individual feature and things like that, that's great, but you got to go solve a problem fundamentally that has an impact on at a personal level, right? Like OneNote, or at a business level, like Salesforce. You see what I mean? So that's a big differentiator. So go deeper and just don't leave the conversation at a superficial level that this is what customers are asking for. When you start understanding their business impact, what is pulling them back, and how you could impact the productivity of, like, 10 or 50 people in that organization, you will be able to solution a much better product on your side.
Thank you. Ian has a follow-up comment to what you just mentioned, so I'll just read it out loud. I may not want to use TurboTax every day, but I'll love once a year when it gets me the largest possible refund. If TurboTax didn't help me to get money back, then I wouldn't love it.
Sorry, I didn't hear you fully, Irina. Can you just repeat it? Sorry.
Oh, sorry about that. Ian says, I may not want to use TurboTax every day, but I love once a year when it gets me the largest possible refund. If TurboTax didn't help me to get money back, then I wouldn't love it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Thank you for this comment, Ian. Our next question is, in your career, how have you found ways to accelerate and shorten the time to value, time to clarity, time to meaningful employee-manager relationships?
Oh, that's an outstanding question, in my opinion, because that's what, a bunch of my experience had been, because I have made mistakes, and, sometimes it takes few iterations to find out what are the right parameters that you should be looking at for the job, and, to be successful in the job. So I talked about these framework. That's great. Like, this is like, once you're on the job, right? How do you pick a job? And how do you know that this is the place that you're going to be successful in? And one of the parameters is also manager. See, early on in your career, manager is a very important part. You got to know how good the manager is. What are the principles and the values that the manager is having? So you got to know that thing, besides how your team is and whether you're excited about the product and all of that good stuff. But when you start getting to a senior level, manager is a very small component of the thing. Of course, it is important. I'm not, going to lower the importance, because at that time you're actually reporting to so many managers. You got to then understand what is the company value, what are the things that they are optimizing for, how good is the company overall in terms of brain power, like, are they hiring good set of people? You start having to evaluate all of these things. So that time to evaluation or time to value, in my opinion, it has been through experience. Even though I knew that these are the parameters that I should be looking at, sometimes I have made mistakes, I have taken wrong turns. But the good thing is I realized that I took wrong turns, and then I was willing to, like, write it off and, like, start anew at that point, right? I don't know if I answered your question completely, but, I've probably just outlined it in a different way, I guess.
Thank you. If you have a follow-up question, feel free to post in chat so we can address that. I wanted to touch upon something that you had mentioned in your presentation that resonated with me when you talked about learnings around engineering, and you mentioned how important it is to make sure that morale remains strong and high on the team. In your experience, what have you personally done, or what have your team maybe done in the past to ensure morale with the team?
Yeah, so that's a good question as well. One is like, the experience that I share, that I can explain here is the non-COVID time period, but I can also tell, something from the COVID time period also. So the non-COVID time period, I can take the same example that I was talking about from the Office 365 experience. Like, at that time when things were not scaling, when everybody is pointing fingers at like, this component is not scaling, this is actually causing a lot of pain and it is holding the business back, it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure, even if the team is actually having senior principal level people, right? So the very important thing to do is, shut off all the noise. Go into a room with your engineers and have an open, authentic conversation around, okay, what are the things that is bothering them? Because at the end of it, you want to try and solve the problem together in a collaborative way without losing anybody, right? Presuming that the team is strong, we have strong set of people that are that have the ability to go solve the problem. You do not want to lose anybody. On the other hand, if there are few people that are pulling the morale of the rest of the guys because they are having a bad year, you also have you can also influence your engineering leader about certain decisions that engineering leader needs to take. But in my case, in that particular instance, all my engineers were really, really awesome. So it was very easy for me to say, okay, you know what, I do not want anybody to leave. I want everybody to stay. And let's just go figure out this problem together, right? So we made a list of things. We literally went around the room, went and wrote it on the board. What are the 3 things that is bothering them? And then we came up with a list of things that we could go solve, and we solved it together. Right. And we also divided and conquered, like, different components that were not scaling. That was also another thing that we did in that meeting, saying like, okay, you know what, these set of people go and look into the problems on this section. You guys go look into this problem. And like, I would say in about, I believe it was 3 to maybe 5 months by which we were able to like start like weeding out all the major scale issues. And then the system was starting to flow, meaning we were able to like get the machines all provisioned, things were actually starting to flow. And of course, there is never an end to all these scale problems, because when you're building a large scale system, there is always scale problems. But, this was a very critical scale problem that we had to go and like, solve. That's one of the things. Now, I also touched on the topic around, people pulling the morale down. That also happens. So you need to understand who are those people that are having a rough time because either they are a low performer or they are not happy where they are and they believe they should be, leveled up and things like that. There are situations like that. And you need to figure out, okay, is this person talented enough that, you can influence your engineering leader to have that person work on a different problem? Or is it better to just let them go? Because a lot of the times it's okay to let them go pursue something else. They may be happier in a different environment. It might be good for them, good for the team, good for the business as well. Now, during the COVID time period, like we were lucky to find pockets when we were able to conduct offsite. And I will definitely give credit to my product manager who identified that pocket and scheduled that offsite right at that time period. So we could all go and do it together. And for my own team, like I just have like, every month or every other month, sync up in person. And we actually just go out and like, talk about everything other than work. Right. I mean, I make sure that we do not talk about work because we already have enough Zoom meetings to talk about work. And we used all of those opportunities to get to know them. What are the other problems that they may actually have? And it turned out pretty good overall.
It's such a good reminder that personal connection is so, so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. We had another question. If you three have a Twitter or LinkedIn account, would you care to share that with the audience?
Yeah, I do have a LinkedIn account. Should I send it out right now?
Oh, Bethany, thank you so much for putting it in chat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bethany.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from our audience? One more question. What are you reading? What should we be reading?
Great question. You know, one of my all-time favorites is actually a book, Johnny Bunko. I don't know if you guys have read that thing. It's a graphic novel. You know, the thing that I said about it's never about you, it's about the customer and what problem you solved and all of those things. That's a very detailed, you should read the graphic novel. It's so funny. And a lot of those things just stuck in my mind. There are 5-6 rules that, you know, he talks about. Just go read that thing. And then, you know, other books that I totally love is Radical Candor and Dare to Lead. I often feel, especially in this COVID time period, it is so hard to read people's signal and like, you know, what they are thinking about it. And I always use this thing, be radical candor about it, like, you know, give the feedback. It's so easy when you say it upfront on what they are doing well, what they need to do well, and stuff like that, right? And I do have a lot of books that I really enjoy, like Good to Great is another book that I really like. And sometimes this, you know, the first 90 days is actually an interesting book as well, because sometimes when you may not have really changed your job, but your scope might have expanded. Like it's okay to go back and refer to books like these that actually, you know, gets you going often. So, you know, that's another book. I did tell about Dare to Lead. Yeah, I think these are the things that comes to my mind right away.
Thank you for this. And Bethany and Ian, thank you for providing the names of the books. I think it's time for us to put some more books in our bookshelves and address them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Right.
And if you guys have any interesting thing, just share it as well. I also like look for interesting, you know, books that I can actually read up and continue to learn. Yeah.
Thank you all. Well, if we do not have any questions, I just wanted to take a minute and thank you, Gayathri, so much for taking the time to come and share your knowledge and your experience with our audience. I found it very useful. And again, I hope that everyone who's watching this either live or in recording also found it very useful. And thank you for the audience. I hope this was a helpful learning for you all. And please check out more of the content, and we hope to see you on our next event in the webinar format. And of course, please check out our website and find more great content there. Thank you all so much.
Thank you everyone for attending this. Thank you, Irina and Bethany, for, you know, organizing this great event. And happy to be connected with the Products That Count product manager family. Like, it's amazing. Yeah. Thank
you. Thank you again. Hope you have a great night.
Thank you.